My parents, they passed away in a pretty tragic accident. However, my grandmother, she was very old at the time. She couldn't really look after me, and she feared that I would end up in another house that did not belong to our family, and somebody maybe would adopt me. Well, it turns out my grandma is very smart. She knew my aunt could look after me, however, she knew that she wouldn't, so she made up a lie. She said anybody in the family who looks after me and raises me to the age of 18 will receive a $1 million inheritance when she passes away. Well, obviously, my greedy aunt just was biting at her nails trying to get that $1 million. But there's one thing Grandma did not tell her. A clever grandma, a greedy aunt, and $1 million inheritance lie that kept a roof over my head for years. Let's just say my 18th birthday was a memorable one. And for all the wrong reasons, here's why. I'm 18, I'm male, and I've been brought up by my aunt. I lost my parents in a tragic accident when I was about 3. My earliest memories are a blur of tear-stained cheeks and whispered goodbyes. Orphaned, at a young age, I became a burden to my frail grandma. My grandmother was too old to take care of me, she's 76 at the time, so the responsibility just fell on my Aunt Suzanne, my mother's sister, who is known for being toxic and manipulative to the entire family, you see. Susan was a divorcee at 34 years of age, back then, who had recently left her husband because he could not provide her with the life that she wanted. Everyone steered clear of her thanks to her greedy nature. As I've heard, she often borrowed money from my parents more times than I could ever count, never bothering to repay even a single penny. The idea of her raising a child, left alone me, was something everybody was against. But with no other options, my grandmother, bless her heart, hatched a plan as outrageous it was as brilliant. She cooked up a story about a trust fund, a cool $1 million supposedly waiting for whoever took me in. Aunt Suzanne, ever the sucker for a quick buck, swallowed the bait whole. As I grew older, I realized the weight of the situation that I was in. My grandmother's plan had worked, but it came with its own set of challenges and meant enduring Aunt Suzanne's constant criticism and manipulation. Well, living with Aunt Suzanne was like walking on eggshells. She nitpicked everything from the way I folded my laundry. Apparently, there was a right and wrong way to do that, to the tone of my voice. Every achievement was met with a backhanded compliment. Wow. It was designed to chip away at my self-esteem, and she would often belittle me in front of my guests, criticizing everything from my appearance to my ambitions. No matter how hard I tried to please her, it was never enough. While my grandmother quietly footed the bills and provided for my needs, Aunt Suzanne made sure to remind me at every single turn that I was nothing but a burden to her and a means to get her hands on that supposed $1 million inheritance. She would constantly remind me about the sacrifices she was making and the fortune I was supposedly costing her. "This roof over your head isn't free, she would say, with her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "That trust fund better be worth it, kiddo." At the time, I had no idea if the trust fund was real or fake. Her getting all of it made me mad, but she was terrible to me, so, I wasn't allowed to go out with friends, have hobbies, or even get decent clothing because everything was so darn expensive. And my old grandmother could only afford so much. Aunt Suzanne never contributed much and never helped me out. Instead, it was me who began working and took on my part-time job just to pitch in bills, while she gladly accepted my hard-earned money. It was more difficult since I'm a boy. Growing up and, the only advice I got for any guy thing was from her one-night stands or weekly boyfriends that reeked of cigarettes and beer, and somehow only seemed to hang out with her at home. During nights when they were over in our tiny 2-room house, I could only save myself from all the nastiness going on by escaping through the window and going over to the nearby convenience store, which thankfully remained open till 5, 4 in the morning. Anyways, the days went on like this, and soon I was about to turn 18. As my birthday approached, Aunt Suzanne could not hold her excitement. She had already started making plans for what she was going to do with the money and never missed an opportunity to rub it in my face. Like one night, she barged into my room and asked if she could go on a trip to Italy or Turkey. Or maybe I could go both places. She laughed and left the room while humming some song. Gosh, I hate her, and the thought of her being able to spend all the money my parents had saved up, it just filled me with rage. I mean, I could use the money for college. Nevertheless, the long-awaited day finally approached, and it was my birthday today. Ironically, Aunt Suzanne, who had never cared about my birthday before, wanted to throw me a lavish party this year, despite me saying that I didn't want it. She went on to spend hundreds of dollars on it, and she made sure to not only invite all our extended family members, but also her friends and even her ex-husband along with his family. Now, it makes me laugh how she wanted to show off in front of everybody that she was finally getting rich, but it all blew up in her face in a very hilarious way. You see, after the whole cake-cutting ceremony, things took a pretty unexpected turn during dinner. My aunt, the one who always tries to look fancy but ends up losing tackiness, decided it was the perfect moment to bring up some trust fund. She was dressed to the nines in this over-the-top red satin dress, but trust me, the classiness just ended there. Anyways, she started talking to Grandma about this supposed trust fund that I was supposed to get on my 18th birthday. Grandma was super calm as a cucumber, and collected, asking which fund she was referring to, and then Aunt Suzanne dropped the absolute bomb, saying that it was, the one supposedly set aside for whoever was my legal guardian. But things took a pretty wild turn when Grandma laid it all bare for her that there's no such trust fund to begin with. You should have seen Susan's face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, and she kept insisting, practically demanding Grandma to show her the money. Grandma straight up told Aunt Suzanne that she had been raising me out of greed, hoping for a payday that never even existed. Ouch! And let me tell you, Susan was absolutely livid. She began accusing Grandmother of lying, claiming that she wasted all these years taking care of me for nothing and demanding compensation for the years that she spent supposedly looking after me. But Grandma shut her down, saying she's been given plenty already. Yeah, that's right, Grandma. Honestly, it was pretty embarrassing for me too. I mean, finding out your own family has been lying to you about a trust fund, come on, that's not very cool. But what really got to me was when Grandma called Susan out for not only caring about the money, but that's it, she didn't care about me. And she wasn't wrong. Susan may have cooked for me and let me stay at her place sometimes, but it was Grandmother who did everything else. I'm talking financially, I'm talking emotionally, I mean, you name it. Wow. In the end, I simply could not take it anymore. I just stood up and I left, and it's a messed up situation all the way around, and I'm still trying to process it. Like, on one hand, Susan totally deserved to be called out, but on the other hand, Grandma straight up lied to me for years, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Right now, I'm just at my friend's house, and Grandma keeps telling me that I'm not ready to talk to her yet, especially after the bomb that she dropped on us today. I'm confused as heck and want advice. I mean, should I go back to Aunt Susan's house or move in with my grandmother, at least until I graduate? I'm in my senior year, so I don't want my grades to suffer either, but my head is in complete chaos right now. I mean, what should I do? I would appreciate any advice or just moral support at this point. Thanks, everybody, for listening to my rant. Update number 1. So last night, after Grandmother dropped the bombshell on us, Aunt Susan went absolutely ballistic. As if things could not get any crazier, right? I mean, I've always knew Aunt Susan had a flair for the dramatics, but suing Grandma and me? That's a whole new level of insane. What happened was that after the way my birthday dinner unfolded and I made my exit, it seemed Aunt Susan's meltdown was far from over. Well, according to my cousin, who was also present at the party, the guests cleared out pretty quickly after I left, leaving Aunt Susan to stew in her embarrassment. To add insult to injury, one of her friends decided it was a prime social media material and posted a video of the whole confrontation on Facebook. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. You know, all of this caused my aunt to lose her marbles, and now she's planning to sue both me and Grandma for deceiving her into raising me for 15 years and for emotional distress and financial loss. I can't even believe it. She didn't do anything except let me stay at her place. To be honest, I did everything by myself or with Grandma's help. Susan never helped in anything, and now she wants to drag me and Grandma to the court. How much worse of a human can she become? No wonder none of her boyfriends seem to last for more than 2 days. But while Aunt Susan has decided to go completely off the rails, some things have turned out to be for the better. After taking advice from you guys, I agreed to hear out Grandma and why she chose to lie to me all my life. When I finally gathered the courage to call up Grandma and hear the side of her story, she didn't lash out or play the blame game. Instead, she explained that she did what she did because she wanted to ensure that I had a stable upbringing, and she believed that Aunt Susan would not have stepped up to it if she had not been led to believe that there was a financial incentive attached to it. She apologized for keeping the truth from me all these years and asked for one more chance. Well, guys, I gotta admit, hearing Grandmother's side of things, it softened my anger a bit. Yeah, she lied to me, but her intentions were to protect me, and you know what else? Despite everything that's happened, I found it in my heart to forgive her. Because at the end of the day, Grandma always had my best interest at heart. Although deep down, I still have this fear that what if she's hiding something else from me? I guess it's a fear I'll have to live with all my life. In fact, I'm moving in with her until I graduate, and it's not the perfect solution, but it feels like the right one for me. There's still a lot to figure out, like how to deal with Aunt Susan in high school, and I can't afford to miss out on my classes anymore too, and I plan to go to a medical school. I'm not sure how I'll manage to do it, but I'll figure it out somehow. Right now, I'm more worried about this lawsuit and how we'll pay for the lawyers and everything else. Can she really sue us over this? I mean, what should I do? Maybe ask her to settle it between ourselves and not create such a big mess, much bigger than it already is? Whoa, guys. Mr. Reddito here. I mean, wow. What can I say? This is one of those times when I'm reading a story like this that makes me think how family can be this twisted. So, as in my opinion, I do understand why the OP would feel like this. I mean, come on, both his grandma and aunt have been terrible to him. One was hiding something that concerned his deceased parents, and the other was using him to snatch their money. It's really terrible, and I do hope that he at least has someone that he can rely on amidst all this. Perhaps his friends of his, someone that he can stay with. The best thing for him right now is to keep his distance, clear his head, and then think about what to do after. Guys, update number 2 is about to happen. If you're not subscribed to the channel, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Here it is. Update number 2. It's been a couple of days since my last update, and here's a development on the lawsuit drama. It turns out Aunt Susan's threats of a lawsuit were just empty. Her lawyer advised against it, saying that there was not enough evidence of something like that. I couldn't believe that something so serious and terrifying had turned out to be nothing more than a bluff. But that's not all today. I found out a new thing about my past that concerns both Aunt Susan and my mother. While talking to Grandma, all the things that made me feel bad about Aunt Susan vanished into thin air. She had not been terrible to me, but also she was extremely cruel to her sister. Yeah, my mom. So Aunt Susan always competed with Mom on everything, and she wanted to be called smarter, prettier, and eventually more successful than her by any means. When Mom started to date Dad, Aunt Susan gets extremely jealous. Dad was not only good-looking, but also was very successful in his career. He was a reputable neurologist and earned what most people even fail to make in their lifetime. Burning into her jealousy, she tried whatever she could to seduce Father, but when she failed in all her attempts to make, him leave Mom, she resorted to other measures. She spread these malicious rumors about her everywhere and got her labeled as a cheater and a gold digger. That was not all. She even started a huge fuss about Dad making uncomfortable advances in her direction and even harassment. Even though her lies eventually caught up to her, Mom and Dad were able to, restore their reputation. It doesn't change the fact that she made their lives a living hell. Now that I know all this, even if there was a soft corner for her in my heart, it's all gone. She's not only made my parents' life difficult, but now is also hell-bent on making mine and Grandma's life insufferable. She says she's not done with us yet and will go to another lawyer until there's someone who can make us pay for what we did to her. I think enough is enough. I'm no longer going to sit back and let her do whatever she wants. I never complained about anything she did to me all these years, but now I'm done with her crap and have decided to make her pay for everything. So tomorrow I'm going to meet a lawyer as well. Not just talk about the possibility of getting sued by Aunt Susan, but to file a case on her neglectful upbringing. As my legal guardian, I'll include everything from the house that reeked of alcohol and cigarettes to being forced to start working at such a young age. It's time for Aunt Susan to face the consequences of her actions, and I'm determined to hold her accountable for the years of suffering that she caused. From now on, I refuse to be a victim of her toxic behavior even a second longer. Wish me luck, and if everything goes right, I'll be back again to let you all in on the details. Update number 3. So, it's been a few weeks and I'm back with another update, guys. After making the decision to take legal action against Aunt Susan for neglectful upbringing, I met a lawyer to discuss the details of the case, and I laid out everything. From the unsuitable living conditions in Aunt Susan's home to the emotional and psychological toll her actions had on me over the years. The lawyer was sympathetic to my situation and assured me that we had a strong case against Aunt Susan. We discussed potential legal strategies and began gathering evidence to support my claims. It felt empowering to finally take action and hold Aunt Susan accountable for her years of neglect and mistreatment. The lawyer informed me that my case against Aunt Susan could potentially have some serious legal weight. Neglectful guardianship, that's a serious matter, and with the evidence I provided, there's a real chance that we could hold her accountable for all her actions. So, we discussed the next steps, guys, including gathering additional evidence and even building a strong case to present in court. It's going to be a long, challenging process, but I'm more determined than ever to see it through. In addition to pursuing legal action, I've also been working on another front to ensure Aunt Susan's facing the consequence of her actions. Remember those rumors that she spread about my parents trying to sabotage their relationship and tarnish their reputation completely? Well, you know what? It's payback time. I've been reaching out to old acquaintances and friends of Aunt Susan, sharing the truth about her manipulative, deceitful nature, by exposing her lies and revealing the real story behind her vendetta against my parents. I hope to strip away any remaining support or sympathy that she may have. But here's where it gets, sticky. Remember the lawsuit thing a few months back, and Aunt Susan tried everything she could and wanted, to go to several lawyers to take her case, but there was no evidence supporting her claim. Grandma never confirmed that this is in writing. Not even a text message, so even if she manages to take her case to court, she's most likely going to lose. Grandma said even if something remotely like this happens, she'll straight up deny saying anything like this at all. But the story does not end here. Feeling confident, I gave my lawyer a go, and soon my aunt was notified about it. Having nothing to hold against me and my aunt, she came running with her tail between her legs and asked for an apology. For everything she made me and my parents go through, there was no way I was going to forgive her so easily. As per her own lawyer, Aunt Susan expressed her desire to avoid a messy legal battle and suggested we meet to discuss a potential settlement. At first, I was obviously hesitant to entertain the idea, weary of her motives and distrustful of her sincerity. But after careful consideration, I realized that perhaps a peaceful resolution was the best outcome for everyone involved. And so I agreed to Aunt Susan's offer of settlement. Not because I was letting her off the hook per se, but because I realized that holding on to anger and resentment would only continue to consume me. I needed to let go and move forward with my life. Well, guys, I'm happy to tell you we reached an agreement that included a formal apology from Aunt Susan, financial compensation for the years of neglect, and a promise to leave me alone for the rest of my life. Also, I'm overwhelmed by all the love and support you guys have shown me. Well, some people are hating my attempt at suing Aunt Susan, saying it's petty. I'm glad that others understand why in the world I did it. Meanwhile, things have been looking up for me. I'm moving out of my grandmother's house next week. Thankfully, one of my friends have allowed me to live with him until high school is over, in exchange for rent, which, by the way, is a lot. Grandma is also supportive of my decision, so I guess all is well for now. Update number 4. Hey guys, so it's me again on the follow-up of what happened to Aunt Susan after the lawsuits and settlements. I know many of you have been very curious about her, so let me fill you in on the latest developments. After it was all over with the lawsuits and settlements, Aunt Susan was left alone. I made sure everyone we knew was aware of the hell that she put me through, and what a terrible person that she's been all of my life. Well, a lot of my family members cut her off completely, and she's no longer invited to mutual family gatherings or even parties. Still, unable to feel remorse about her actions and feeling like a victim, she unfortunately looked for comfort. Well, it was in the wrong place. Aunt Susan met a guy online from Thailand, and they instantly fell in love, apparently. According to him, he owned several properties in Bangkok and wanted to settle down with somebody that he could love and trust. Well, and to my naive Aunt Susan, she fell for it. That's right, hook, line, and sinker. And guys, before we even knew it, Aunt Susan was packing her bags and announcing that, she's gone. She plans to move to Thailand to be with her newfound lover. She sold most of her belongings and even transferred a significant portion of her savings to her Thai boyfriend for whatever reason he convinced her to, believing that she was securing her future with this man. Oh, can you believe it? Well, you can just guess what happened next, right? Upon reaching Thailand, her boyfriend was nowhere to be found. His social media accounts deactivated, and all of the contact information was no longer in use. Aunt Susan, standing in a foreign country, stranded with a broken heart and an empty bank account, was left with horrifying realizations that she's been conned. She even tried getting help from the police there, but apparently it happens a lot and she may never get her money back. I guess she found a gold digger bigger than her. Devastated with no other way to reach her boyfriend, Aunt Susan has recently moved in with Grandma. However, she made it clear that this was not a free ride. Aunt Susan would have to contribute to the household, whether financially or by house chores. Grandma says she'll make sure to teach Aunt Susan a lesson that she'll, set her straight all her life. I believe that has already happened to her. For somebody who loves money as much as she does, it's pretty terrible to lose most of it on a whim. Even though I'm not exactly happy about what happened to Aunt Susan, I can't help but notice how ironic all this really is. The woman who once tried to use and manipulate me for financial gain ended up getting scammed herself and lost all of what she owned. This whole ordeal has been nothing more than a roller coaster, but through it all, I've learned a valuable lesson. Karma really does come around and bite you back when you least expect it. Final update, mini update, number 5. Okay guys, here's another and probably last update I'll be making here. It's been months since all this happened. The dust has settled and a lot of things have been happening in the meanwhile. See, I moved to a new city and have finally started college. Everything is going well and I'm living in my university dorms and have also found a decent paying part-time job on campus. How am I paying for college, you ask? Well, that's a cute story. Who knew? My grandma was not done looking out for me. Bless that woman. The woman was saving up for me for college all these years. Not only that, there was actually a fund my father had set up for me that only Grandma knew of. By adding both of these amounts, I'm all covered for my college years. I could not believe it at all when Grandma first told me. My dad was still talking and taking care of me while he wasn't here. I just wish I could be like him in every aspect of my life. As for Aunt Susan, well, she can stew in her own bitterness for all I care. She may still be fuming over everything that went down, but I refuse to let her negativity hold me back. It's time for me to focus on building a future for myself. One where Aunt Susan's drama doesn't factor in. Now I'm content with my life and don't let the past haunt me anymore. As I sign off from here for good, I would like to thank all of you one more time for the comments, support, and valuable advice. I mean, this Aunt Susan character, she was so absurd. And a lot of the comments, they might have gone too far, but hey, it's not really too far, is it, when we're talking about someone as toxic as Aunt Susan anyways? Most of them were so happy that she went to Thailand and got completely scammed out of her money by some lover who didn't even exist. I want to know what you think about that, what you would have done in that situation if you found yourself in OP's shoes and you're hearing about your aunt losing everything in Thailand. Luckily, OP was the one that walked out on this on top, being able to go to college for free thanks to her late father's passing. But guys, I do want to know your thoughts and how OP ended up being on top. Let me know in the comment section, guys. My name is Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day. And if you want to be a part of that, all you have to do is subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.